Good afternoon. I'm Martha Johnson, and I work with the rocks at the Ness of Brodgar that don't belong. I've been conducting analysis of the non-tool, non-structural rock at the Ness of Brodgar since 2013. Site director Nick Card, a very open-minded archaeologist, was very much in favor of adding to the various finds that are collected from the Ness foreign stone, the non-tool, non-wall rocks that are normally consigned to the spoils pile. Why? Because they don't appear to be a find. Why study these rocks that don't belong? Because they had no apparent reason to be at the site. So beginning in 2013, formal university research was conducted on these chunks and bits of rock, the foreign stone at the Ness. The research required two questions, broad questions, to be answered. What rock was found in the foreign stone, and where could this rock have come from? To do this, a protocol needed to be developed to assess what rock. For those of you that have been to the Ness, you know that that isthmus between Loch Ness and Loch of Harry is covered with a brown layer of probably glacial soil, glacial till. So everything coming out of the Ness, and at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, many of the diggers are all Ness brown. So the first step in assessing the foreign stone was giving all the rocks a bubble bath. And once washed, the rocks began to show their physical properties. Being a geologist, my expertise was to record their physical properties, their color, their texture, grain size, or crystal size, depending on if they were sedimentary rocks, igneous rocks, their nature, any aspect of bedding, of sorting, how heavy they felt or how light they felt relative to other rock. And if I could see it, any mineral content. Also, their general shape was recorded in a database. Once I had the properties, I could begin to assign names, rock names, to these foreign stones, stones such as sandstone, camptonite, granite. Additionally, because this is an archaeological site, the trench, the structure, the context, specific area is what context means within the site, and the small finds number, and we're up to 42,000 small finds at the moment, were recorded. This would permit later on analysis of where specific rocks might have been found. And early on in the research, I understood that two additional aspects that were more archaeological than geological needed to be recorded because they indicated actions of people, evidence of rounding water wear, evidence of exposure to heat. The evidence of water wear became very apparent with some of the beach-hardened, wave-hardened cobbles that were found within the Ness, some of them nice spheres, some of them just very gently smoothed and rounded. And the second evidence of interaction with people were rocks that were being recovered with red or gray or black staining from sooting, exposure to heat, rocks that had been fractured because of exposure to heat, and rocks that had been very seriously degraded from their hard properties because of exposure to heat. The second question, where could these rocks have come from? Let me explore your wonderful Orkney archives for 3 winters, recording and developing a gazetteer of all the rock identified in the last 150 years as recorded in some area of Orkney. 35 specific rocks and minerals were recorded in this document and the references for their occurrence. This let me prepare some generalized sedimentary, igneous, and glacial maps for the West Mainland, which help me and the archaeologists get a handle on where these rocks might have come from. And when we start looking at the foreign stone, it is evident that the analysis showed 75% of the 3,000 foreign stone finds were sedimentary. That is what would be expected. The isthmus and most of the West Mainland is covered, or underlain, I should say, by sedimentary rocks, mudstones, siltstones, sandstones. I actually expected a higher percentage than 75%. But what was interesting when we looked further into the data, the 75% of the sandstones, brown, tan, gray, or red, that's not unexpected. But what was unexpected is of those sandstones, almost 60% were red. And there is no outcrop of red sandstone on the site or near the site. This meant, again, they were brought to the site by people. 50% of the sandstones, once we got into the archaeology of it, were recovered from just one structure, structure 10. And 70% of all the red sandstones were exposed to heating. Analysis also showed that most of the water-worn rocks that were sedimentary were again sandstone, wave-hardened and tumbled and rounded cobbles that had been transported from an ocean beach, Scale, Warbith, areas on Scapa Flow, not from the nearby locks that don't have enough wave action to fully round these cobbles. Analysis of the foreign stone showed that of the remaining 25%, almost all of the foreign stone rocks in that were basalt, camptonite, rhyolite, or granite, igneous rocks. There were only 8 metamorphic rocks of 3,000 recovered as foreign stone. When we started to look at these igneous rocks, there are some outcrops of camptonite on the isthmus, but 60% of the igneous rocks recovered are basalt, felsite, or granite rocks not found on the isthmus. And all of the igneous rocks, 70% of them, had been exposed to heat. Both reflect, again, the deliberate actions of people. This research with 3,000 rocks from 2013 to 2017 has continued on with the recovery through 2021 foreign stone. And what it is done, like most research, though we answered generally the 2 broad research questions, rock of what and rock from where, we raised a lot more questions, and most of them begin with the word why. Why did they bring igneous rocks to the site? You can dig a hole anywhere on that isthmus and find lovely sedimentary rock for building. But we have found, and this is a pottery find from 2021, bits of degraded camptonite put in the pottery to temper it, to make it fire better. Why were red sandstones brought to the Ness? Many of them heat degraded. Both on the pottery and on the walling, we have found red, the color red, used probably from the degraded iron content in red sandstone. Why are we finding rocks with depressions where yellow, orange, or brown siltstones were ground into powders? Our resident artist, Dr. Karen Wallace, experimented with some of the foreign stone rocks, grinding them into powders and making pigments. And she found that the best application for coloring rock is not mixing it with egg or oils or water, but just simply grinding the rock and applying the powder rock on rock. And I was asked this question many times in the last 8-10 years. Why are you bothering with rocks? It wasn't called the Bone Age. It was called, or is called, the Stone Age, and rock was the medium of choice. Rocks join tools, dry stone walling, and pottery, letting us know or showing us the knowledge and skills the people at the Ness held and the choices they made with that knowledge. And as I used to tell my students, rocks have information to tell you. You just have to ask them the right questions. Thank you.